All right. Last week we closed out with the car in its first coat of primer, and just like everything else, you end up sanding most of that off, at least to get it down to a reasonable finish. And what that's allowed me to do is this is allowing me to find low spots even in the new sheet metal. A lot of people assume because it's new that it doesn't have a bunch of dings in it. And you can see by this quarter panel here, after blocking it, there was plenty of low spots. As you can see, I've already burned through to the metal here, but I still had to fill in a little bit more in these areas here once I got the long block on it. So proceeding down the side with that, you'd expect door dimples and irregularities in an older skin, obviously through wear and tear. But like I said, the new sheet metal looks so good, you figure, well, I'll just be able to throw that primer on there and mash on with the final coat of paint. But that's not the case, as anybody who's dealt with this replacement sheet metal knows. There's slight imperfections from handling, shipping, and everything else that have to be addressed. Anyway, after I get done this, I have a whole other side of the car. This is about midweek. I have this whole side of the car that needs to be addressed. I'm starting on the front fender over here. The doors, as I predicted, were the biggest effort. There's so much shape to them. These crisscrossing shapes, and you've got flares, and you've got places where you have to hand sand. There's all kinds of detail at the bottom of the door. It changes direction as far as the flare. You have to match it to the rocker panel. You have to make sure that your doors flow good into the quarter panels. So that's where most of the activity lies. Anyway, after this, I'll have to recoat it again with another coat of this heavy build primer. This next coat, I'll just thin it down just a bit to try to get it act more as a sealer than anything else, and also says it doesn't have as much of a high build, and it's a little easier to sand. And I'll have to go down over this car again, the same as I've just done here, and continue until we stop seeing breakthroughs and things like that. And then we know we'll be where we have to be to proceed with the next step after that, which will be to dismantle everything around here to get to the door jambs and this inner structure over here, to get that all body worked and then primed and then painted. Also, the deck lid will have to come off back there because there's a bed surrounding that has to be addressed and body worked. All the pieces and parts that come off the car will have to have the undersides, like the underside of the hood, the underside of the deck lid, the insides of the doors will have to be addressed, plus pieces that I don't have on the car, like the roll pan, will have to be addressed separately, the rear view mirrors. So there's quite a bit of stuff that has to be done. When it looks like you're getting close, you're actually like a house. When you put up the 2x4s, it looks like you're almost done, but there's so much more to go. Same with painting a car. It gets a little tough because it's hard to be patient, especially if you don't do this all the time. I myself am only able to put in about 4 to 5 hours worth of sanding because it gets to my shoulders. Those are muscles I don't use a lot, and then you're down on the floor trying to get a good angle, to get good leverage, to try to get everything averaged out. So anybody who does this kind of work, my heart goes out to you. And I know what it takes, and I learned early on in life this is not what I want to do for a living. But I'm okay with doing it for something like this once a year. It's not too bad. But to do this, wake up every morning and have to do something like this, it takes a special kind of person. And like I said, thank goodness there's guys that are willing to do it. Anyway, we're moving on. Okay, so I shot it with another coat of the high build polyester primer to try to find the final flaws, and I went ahead and dry sanded and blocked this car down to 400. I used to wet sand at this stage, but The last car, I was told, why don't you just dry sand it, because it's less of a mess, and I agree. The only thing that you have to do is keep an air nozzle handy and use it to clear the sandpaper every once in a while, and it works out just fine. I know a lot of people prefer to use the wet sand method, but it's a mess to clean up all of the water that goes down in everywhere, and it leaves deposits this stuff everywhere, and then you got to go back and clean it all out of all the crooks and crannies and nooks and so forth. But anyway, got it down to 400, which is basically ready for sealer and finished paint. But that's not what I have to do next. As I explained in the last clip, it'll be time to take all these pieces and parts off the car so I can get to the door jambs, and I can do the undersides of the hood and the deck lid, and get some color on those before I can put it all back together, and then finally get the final on the outside. Anyway, I wanted to talk just a minute about this high-build primer. Anybody's going to venture into this, you've got to know this about this stuff. It's really great stuff. It helps you see all the flaws in your body work really well, and it also acts as a final filler. Normally glazing putties are polyester also. They're activated, and compared to some of the old products that we used to use, like the lacquer-based primers and stuff like this stuff doesn't shrink back. That's the beauty of it. It's actually it's almost like a light Bondo. I like these products. They're both by Evercoat, but I got a little bit of sticker shock this time. About a year ago, when I went and picked this stuff up, it was about $120 a gallon. I thought that was high, but it's up to $210 a gallon right now. And each one of these coats was a gallon, roughly, to cover this car. I have another gallon left to do the parts and pieces that have to come off the car. But this stuff has gotten to the point where I started the job with what was left over of the glazing putty, this over here, of the Evercoat brand, and I love that stuff. It's super slick, no air bubbles, goes on nice and smooth, sands really well, gives you a nice finish. But the paint store said that it had gone up in price 4 times in the last month or 4 months, so that they could no longer justify carrying it because nobody wanted to buy it at that price. I hated to do that, switch over to another product. They said it was just as good as a substitute, but I just used it and I didn't have any problems with it. Seems to be just as good, but I hate switching products in the middle of a job, that's for sure. But they said they could get it in, they could order it in for me, but I was right in the middle of this and I wasn't going to sit around and wait for that. So at any rate, it went a lot quicker and it was a lot smoother than the struggle I had with the GTX, which was a lot of custom panels, which required a lot more body work. I probably spent close to 2 months working on that car before I could pull it out of here painted. And I think I've been on this for about 2.5 weeks total, and I'm to the point where this would be ready for paint if I didn't have to do the other stuff. Anyway, that's where I am with this right now. So on to the next thing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.